So listen, thank you for joining us today. It's really exciting. Okay, so we're going to dive into AI. We're going to dive into UST and what it is that you do. But UST are a global transformation solutions company that integrates strategy, technology, and human ingenuity. And you work for many of the Fortune 500 companies. So I think before we get into it, can you just explain who Praveen is, what it is you do, and then a little bit about who UST are for those who don't know you? Because a lot of your work is B2B and not necessarily consumer facing. So many of them may not have heard about you. So over to you.
Thank you, Alex, and thanks for that opportunity to share what we think about AI's impact in the overall supply chain procurement industry. Just to introduce myself, Praveen Prabhakaran, Chief Operating Officer for UST. I am based out of our London offices and have been with the company for the last 23 years. To introduce UST, it's a purpose-led company which is focused on using technology for the greater good of humanity. That was a founding principle way back in 1999, and over the last 26 years, we have been able to phenomenally scale the story across 31 countries, and today with 31,000 employees, we are able to live and breathe that simple principle, which enables us to help our customers deliver meaningful solutions to their end users. And that has been the secret sauce which has driven the growth story for us and continues to drive the growth story.
Yeah, you're involved in all sorts of technologies, whether it is creating digital twins, creating digital solutions, transforming businesses for some of the major companies. And often you haven't even created what the customer wants. They just have a problem and you fix it. Some of the things that really impressed me that we've discussed in the past are how you use vision technology, and actually how you've combined vision technology and generative AI in the past. You know, I love some of the stories about what you do, for example, at football stadiums around the world, having dynamic pricing and changing the flow of people around to ensure that there is safety. Can you talk a little bit about some of those things that you do?
Absolutely, Alex. Again, at UST, it's not about using technology for the sake of technology, but developing a deeper understanding of the problem that the customer is trying to solve, and looking at, hey, how can we be invested in it for the longer term relationship? And that's a testament to the growth story that we've been able to achieve with $2 billion revenues. We have only 180 plus customers. And to give a view of that example that you were just quoting about, sometimes people look at technology as a bit of a sci-fi or kind of, you know what, a bit of a rocket science. But at UST, it's all about how do we simplify it in terms of the basic principles that customers can relate to. For example, a technology like Vision AI, we were able to plug it in to look at, hey, how customers could benefit in case of managing their facilities, right from maintaining the cleanliness to crowd control to predicting what actually is the footfall going to look like and what actually would be the broader demands that we could serve, the enterprise could serve them to drive growth. And that has been the success factor for us to look at how to take the innovations that are happening in the technology space, be it Vision AI, be it Gen AI, for connecting it with the enterprise's business capabilities and looking at what could good look like and being invested in that.
Yeah, I love one of the stories I know is in the medical manufacturing where it's very costly. You have a very lengthy manufacturing process of some of the pharmaceuticals that are manufactured, and if there is a misstep in that process, everything gets destroyed, and it can cost tens of thousands of pounds. One batch is a huge cost, and you use vision control to watch what the operators are doing and make sure that there is no misstep in the process. And if they see them doing something they shouldn't, or picking up the wrong product, or moving to the step 17 before 16 has been done, it recognizes that and it will alert the operator to ensure that there's no misstep. And there are thousands and thousands of pounds being saved by the monitoring of that process. I find that quite incredible. I know it's kind of big brothers watching you, but it's for a purpose that saves companies money.
Then absolutely, Alex. And these are again stories that we create by looking at what are the opportunities to innovate around the problems our customers are facing, be it in terms of time to market or cost of ownership, or delivering better experience for their end users. And the story that you just mentioned was one that got created. I think it was during pandemic when the particular company was even struggling to onboard talent in a timely manner and taking them through the learning process. So UST not only digitized the workflow using computer vision, but also looked at how we could create a more online based training program so that they could train the staff in a more remote manner to be productive in the ways of working.
Yeah. So we've talked about UST's involvement in generative AI, in machine learning models, digital twins, intelligent supply chains, responsible AI frameworks. Because obviously things are evolving and they're evolving very quickly. How does AI fit into your strategy now?
So I think the way we are looking at AI from a strategy standpoint is very simple. That in the evolving time frame, AI is going to be the central part of the customer strategy, any enterprise's strategy, because enterprises to remain competitive would have to be deeply invested in AI. And from our side, we are looking at multiple vectors. Number one, how do we train our talent, internal talent, to be aware of what AI means for their day-to-day job and what actually is it going to manifest into in the future, so that they are able to prepare themselves to serve their customers in a better fashion. Number two, our customers are going to be invested in AI, whereby the demand pattern is going to change. So how do we sense that change in demand pattern and be invested in the platforms that can help the customers better address that demand? And number three is more about the impact on the broader community in terms of what actually this means in terms of impact on the economy from new job creation, as well as reskilling the community to be ready to adopt the new AI wave. So those are the key focus areas where we are heavily invested in completely pivoting our approach to help our employees, our customers, and our community to be relevant in the AI world, in the emerging AI world.
Okay, great. I mean, look, you're involved in almost every industry. I know it's only 180 clients, but you're heavily involved and invested in those clients because you split the kind of $2 billion turnover around 180. Those are big relationships. Going across really from healthcare to industry to retail, what are some of the common themes you see that you're now using AI to solve? Some of the common problems that you see.
Yeah, so I think from our standpoint, the common patterns that we are seeing, number one is customers are wanting to move away from that hello chat GPT movement to what actually this really means in an enterprise. So enterprise adoption is one of the common challenge across the domains in terms of, hey, how do I move away from that awareness to the adoption quotient? Like, how do I really take a bet on what actually are the workflows that can really be transformed and yield the required return on investment, plus help me to be competitive. So that's one common agenda item in every organization's strategy vector in terms of how do I move from awareness to adoption. Number two is, I think people are trying to take a bet on some of the low-hanging fruits which they can relate to, like digitizing the contact center operations, digitizing what actually is more of the manual labor-led content creation activities, and also from a technology standpoint, looking at how to work on developer productivity related tools, be it Copilot or GitHub related GitHub related developments that are available for enterprises to play with. And definitely with the current wave of agentic, people are trying to understand what actually should be the operating model that could be driven from an agentic standpoint. So I would say, and again, last but not the least is a focus on security, because security guardrails are of critical importance, as you alluded to in the beginning. Even for this particular sandbox, the common wariness is about, hey, how secure is this entire development going to look like, and what actually are the guardrails that would help us to be secure and be responsible in the usage of AI from a scalable standpoint.
Yeah, I think that has caused a lot of concern. Many companies are either developing their own solutions in-house or doing it with a partner. Very few, a report that Carney put together, only 4% were buying product off the shelf, because there is that concern about exposing yourself to the wider world and exposing your data to the wider world. And there's a lot of hype around AI. What would you say makes UST's approach different?
Yeah, I think if I'm not sure if I can call our approach being different, but definitely it is an approach that we developed based on multiple interactions and feedbacks from our customer base. And one of the aspects that we are talking about, the sandbox itself, was based on a conversation that we had with few of the customers, where one of the challenge was that people were experimenting in silos within the enterprise. People were exposing their sensitive data without realizing that they are using a model which may not be secure or which may not be having the required guardrails. And third was that inability to harness all the potential that their teams had in terms of playing with AI. Was the feedback that we got, and the challenge given to us was, hey, what do you think? It's good to have a shiny use case, but how will you orchestrate in a systematic fashion where, number one, there is this transparency, number two, there is a mechanism to have the required guardrails, and number three, there's an ability to harness the know-how to look at, hey, what could we be promoting as the real AI use case into production based on the know-how that our teams have developed over the past decades working in the landscape. So that led us to kind of creating this sandbox kind of an approach where we felt like people need an ability to play with emerging technologies in the LLM world. And if you look at the ways the LLMs are disrupting themselves, could be overwhelming for many of the enterprise users. And that is the thinking that went in crafting our approach. And I can say, like, that's why we feel that we have taken a step in simplifying the journey from awareness to adoption for the enterprise, Alex. Again, if it's different or not, it's for the audience to judge.
Yeah, I mean, I'll come on to the sandbox in a minute because I'm super excited about its potential. One of the things I just want to just probe a little bit about UST and your approach with your clients, because many companies in this space are technology driven, and they try to build a technology and offer it to clients, and it will save your life. It will mend all your problems. And what you tend to focus on is, yes, we have technology, but our focus is being business led. Our focus is being problem led, and you work with your clients to solve issues, and you use the technology as a supporter, not as the driver. And I like that. I like that approach from UST. I think it's quite novel.
And absolutely, Alex, and that's what
really. You can comment.
No. And thanks for bringing that point up, Alex, because that's one thing that we were also very careful that launching AI in a customer landscape should not mean that we have to land with an army of people. It should be our approach right from day one was we want to make the enterprise self-sufficient in playing with AI. So that means we will come in, put in a platform or a proposition that can help the enterprise become more self-sufficient in adopting AI and working with AI. So the USP of the platform is also that it enables end users, the business users, to plug and play with various concepts in a very simple manner.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're able to do with how you operate is your speed to market, because often you will have a problem, you'll create a solution, you'll create a pilot, and then you'll go from pilot to launch rather than straight to launch. How does that ensure that there is a higher level of success with how you operate with your clients?
Yeah, so I think that is definitely one of the considerations that we had put in place in terms of uh, making sure like this is not getting into an analysis paralysis mode, whereby people are trying to experiment a lot of things in an academic fashion. So first thing that we kept in mind was our time to deploy this should be supersonic. And I think credit to the team that they've created a model whereby they can deploy it in a day's time into the customer's landscape without having to do any other plumbing. The second part is the ability for the customers to pick up what actually this is all about in in matter of days, and look at the propositions that they can unlock. And third, but not the least, is the ability for the enterprise leaders to see what actually the teams are able to unlock and quickly pivot as to what could good look like into production. So that has been the consideration that we put in place in terms of a composable architecture, Alex.
Yeah. So let's talk about the AI sandbox for procurement, because I love this. One of the things that I've had throughout my career is procurement and supply chain is often quite low down in the list when it comes to investment in organizations, and a lot of the investment in AI over the previous few years has been customer focused. It's been about improving the customer satisfaction and delivery performance and how you interact with the customer. And I think now is the time that we need to start looking at the other end of the business. You've been developing it for a lot of use cases within manufacturing, but procurement has huge opportunities. And what you have created with the sandbox is kind of it's a play area. It is an area where people can go and understand a little bit about AI, understand what is in the art of the possible, understand how easy some of these solutions can be, and then if there is a use case or a business case, they can have a discussion with you beyond that. So this is not a solution that you can suddenly employ within your business. What you've created is kind of a look inside the box, so people can really understand and start to develop their own use cases. How did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, Alex, the simple answer there is a lot of the know-how that that users have is not documented in the enterprises, just because the way enterprises have evolved over the period in time, maybe the legacy heritage, maybe the M&A route through which they develop themselves, has led to a significant amount of the concentration of know-how in people's desk or people's mind, which is very hard to unlock. People try multiple techniques to digitize that, but it has not been that successful. So one aspect that we found very powerful in our sandbox approach was the ability for a procurement user to codify their know-how in terms of how they go about rating a particular supplier or judging a particular response into something that we call as a card, which is nothing but a refinement of the prompt, natural prompt that they use on a chat GPT kind of a window, but powered by all the enterprise guardrails and enterprise context. The enterprise context in this case is the data that is more relevant for the concerned enterprise, helps them to not only understand what actually is the output looking like, but also scaling it out within their department in terms of training new people or onboarding new inductees into their department. And that kind of simplification is one of the USPs that is powering the sandbox. To your point, like how people can quickly plug and play with the sandbox into exploring the art of the possible, right from identification of a supplier to comparing multiple suppliers or comparing the performance across multiple geos or multiple dimensions. All these things you can do it in a systematic fashion using the card framework that is there in the sandbox, and we'll shortly show that in the demo also.
Yeah, I think the way I described it almost as if, okay, let's go back to my time at Toyota in the 90s, and there was a Toyota production process for everything. There was a methodology for every step that you would take, and what these cards seem to do is, look, we've pre-thought about what this process should look like, some of the questions that you should ask and how you should ask them and where the responses should come from, and you just kind of pick up the card and say, I'm going to apply this card to my RFQ, I'm going to apply this card to the contracts that I have, I'm going to apply this card to a search for a new product. What's really interesting is the fact that the answers that come back can be adjusted and reflect the type of person. So you can say, I want you to answer this as if I am a CPO or a finance expert or an analyst, and the tone of the response will be adjusted based on the type of person that you want to be responding on behalf of you. So it kind of becomes that real supporter that sits next to you in the office. But you've also made it quite easy for people to build their own cards and to just adjust some of the factors so as they're more relevant for what they want. And it's minutes. It's not like you have to be an expert in coding. This is not coding. The coding is done behind the scenes. You ask the questions and then it is interpreted and the coding is created. Am I explaining that right?
And absolutely, Alex. So it's more about democratizing the access to GenAI within the enterprise. And to your point, the focus on building the cards that are relevant for various personas, what we call it as avatars. In an enterprise, there are multiple roles. Each role performs different functions. So we have created avatars for each of those roles so that they can relate to their set of functions in terms of the cards. And of course, they can create the cards which are more custom to what their experience has been specific to the enterprise. Because each enterprise has a unique context. And our idea was to help them unlock that and preserve that in terms of the cards and potentially look at opportunities to create broader IP. If they see that, this merits more investment from what's happening in technology, there's ample opportunity to invest and double down on that particular scenario.
Yeah. So there's a question that's come in from Richard, who's a bit of an AI. He knows his stuff. You should meet each other, actually. He's saying, is UST offering secure, deployed anywhere and compliance aligned versions? It can become a trusted enabler for customers that don't want to risk data exposure. So it's kind of, how are we ensuring that when people are going in to play in the sandbox, that it is in a safe environment, and
Yeah.
That there is a safe word that we can use if we ever get concerned.
And absolutely, like, so there's a two-pronged approach here. One, definitely the sandbox has UST policy-led guardrails available in place from a security and ethical AI standpoint. Number two, in the enterprise where we are going to deploy it, we have a configurable provision to incorporate the guardrails that they want to see in play. For example, if it's a healthcare customer, they would have their regulatory needs. So we have a mechanism to plug and play that, or if financial services industry has a different set of compliance vectors to be put in place, it is equally extensible from that standpoint. And more importantly, from a geo standpoint also, because US has a different AI policy, EU has a different AI policy, UK has a different AI policy, you can incorporate those guardrails also as configurable items based on the geo also where this is being deployed. So it's a multifaceted approach to ensuring security, because that's the most important vector when we look at AI from a scale standpoint.
Absolutely. I think one of the important factors here is to understand you've created a safe space for members to go and understand more about AI, understand the use cases, understand what is in the art of the possible when it comes to these these cards that you've built. But it's not for our members to use on an industrial scale. So it is to go and try it and understand it and develop business cases. And then when you've got those use cases, then UST are there to turn it into something that is appropriate and effective for your organization. But I think we're in a race right now, and procurement people, in my opinion, need to understand more about AI. They need to understand what's coming and what its possibilities, or it's going to pass you by. And if we don't get on that train, it's going to run you over. It seriously is. Now, Richard recognizes this. Richard's actually building an AI training course at the moment to assist procurement professionals in understanding AI as well. So I think there may be some potential tie-ups there.
And absolutely, Alex, there could be synergies to be leveraged there.
Yeah. The sandbox, I just want to talk a little bit more about this. So one of the concerns a lot of people have, and Richard's come onto it here really, is around bias. So you're asking something to make an opinion based on data, but it makes that opinion based on things that it's learned. And it's most of things that we learned are from history. And if history contains bias, it's quite often going to be projected forward if we don't learn. So a lot of the things that procurement does is it has to be investigative. It has to learn. It has to understand. And if we always look back at who our suppliers are with a certain eye, then that may no longer be relevant. So bias. Talk to me about bias.
Then absolutely. I think bias is definitely one of the byproducts of this entire technology wave that we are seeing. I think so. We go with a design approach there, whereby we expect bias to be there in the outcome, and that's why the overall deployment model that we have is whereby the team is assisting the customers to sense check what kind of bias is being injected, and is it because of the nature of the training that we are given to the users, or based on the data that they're injecting in, or could be based on the RAG model that we are using behind the scenes. It could be due to multitude of factors. So we have a mechanism to detect it using the frameworks that we have put in place, and that's where the human in the loop comes into picture to understand, hey, what is causing the hallucination, and how the pod model can help us to fine tune it based on the contributing factor there, Alex. So my answer would be that there is no silver bullet here. It's more about going with a design approach to detect bias and having an exception block kind of an approach to see how the bias can be remediated by understanding where it is getting injected. Okay.
I missed a little bit of that, but hopefully the audience didn't. When it comes to your model, which language models are you using?
So we are not tied to a particular language model. Our platform can work with all the language models, because the nature of the platform is designed in a fashion whereby it is an API based interface, whereby you can plug and play multiple LLMs of your choice based on what the enterprise has invested in itself or wants to see the path, because some would be a Microsoft shop, some would be a Google shop, some would be a AWS shop. So we are not tied to one particular model. So our approach is to help the users plug and play with models as they want to, whichever they want to experiment with. And that was one of the USPs in terms of, hey, how do we make it easy for people to say that if a new model has come in the market, right, how can they plug and play with that to see what actually their cards are going to respond with, and see what actually is a difference, and if they want to change their investment pattern based on what the new LLM is bringing to table. So short answer is it's LLM agnostic.
Okay. I mean, as I said, I'm super excited, but by this technology and its growth. What are the greatest or fastest return on investment you think some of the clients can see from this?
Yeah, I think the fastest investment that I would say is basically enabling their teams to become more aware about what GenAI is all about, because there's no better mechanism to help their teams plug and play with what actually they want to experiment in a safe manner, because there's absolutely no fear of failure here. The idea is to see, hey, what actually I want to try out, and is it really giving me meaningful output? So number one is awareness quotient within the employee work base. Number two is harnessing what actually are the ideas that could make it relevant for production grade use cases. And the time to market here could be 4 to 6 weeks. In a matter of 4 to 6 weeks, you can look at, hey, what actually is my business case going to look like? And more importantly, when you are putting the business case in front of your board or in front of your CFO, you have a better demonstrable MVP that you can take and say that, hey, this is something that we have tried out. This is what good looks like. And this is what is the evidence that is supporting that business case. So that would be my 2 cents, Alexia.
Yeah, I love that. UST has long emphasized human-centric technology. How do you keep that focus while pushing ahead with AI?
Yeah, so I think our principle is very simple, that AI is a technology that will be relevant based on the availability of smart talent to help customers harness the value. And I think I came across one material which beautifully sums it up, that with pre-AI, there were tons of projects that couldn't be done because of for paucity of funds. Now AI has lowered the barrier of entry in terms of the investments needed to modernize the landscape. So the other way to look at it is, now you can do 10x more projects with the availability of technology. So people quotient can be really harnessed by upskilling the talent in terms of AI ways of working. That's the way we tend to take a look at it.
Yeah. Going back to the security, we've had a difficult year around the world when it comes to security in companies and being hacked. We saw Marks and Spencer's unable to deliver for 4 months. We've had a number of episodes across airports. Jaguar Land Rover have not built a car for 5 weeks.
Yep.
I believe they're looking to start again this week. And the world's running out of Asahi dry beer because they got hacked in Japan. All of this kind of puts that other layer of fear into people when it comes to touching things like this. How can you put their minds at ease with regards to how the sandbox operates?
Yeah, so the absolute security is an ever evolving threat. It is not something that you can say that you have tamed the beast. At UST, we have multiple vectors to address that. One is from a continuous threat assessment standpoint. We have propositions that continuously keeps a watch on the surface vectors, that attack surface vectors. Number two, the way the platform is designed from a guardrail standpoint is kind of taking care of all the emerging threats. But more importantly, it sits within the enterprise's guardrails. So it's not sitting outside of the enterprise. So whatever policies that enterprise has from a security and data standpoint, it will conform to that. So it is not going to create an exposure that will warrant an additional layer of securities. It's going to sit within the guardrails that the enterprise has, Alex.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. Part of the reason for you doing this, you haven't suddenly become a philanthropic organisation. You want to give everything away for free. Part of it is for people to understand more about who UST are and what your capability is. Another is to open the eyes to people's use cases so that then you can build those use cases for them. But I guess you're also going to have the opportunity to learn from people that are trying it. And one of the things that we want to have is this kind of feedback process with regards to, well, this works and this doesn't work. I like this. I don't like this. This is clunky. Can you do this? So it's kind of, although there's kind of an access to the sandbox, there's going to be a joint development process going on here as well. With regards to the IP of someone creates a card themselves, how's that going to work?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we have to discuss with Alchemie Network in terms of how they want to preserve the IP and what actually are the subscription models that they want to extend to their end customer. But I think whatever experimentation that people want to do on the sandbox to see what good looks like is their IP. That's what we believe in. We are not taking any IP away from the customer landscape. So whatever cards you create on the landscape to plug and play and see what good looks like is your IP. If you want to jointly develop something with Alchemie Network and UST, that is an IP conversation that needs to be had separately based on the subscription model that Alchemie Network would be facilitating. But at the heart of it, this is more an innovation playground whereby,
Yep.
you're giving the end user an opportunity to look at what could good look like in my landscape from a art of the possible standpoint.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's going to open the eyes of procurement people around the world to, what is in the art of the possible. Look, we could talk all day on this, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think one of the things we are going to have to do, and we're already discussing it, is have a number of technical discussions about the process. You have already, and when we open up the space, people will see there's a number of videos explaining how to use, how to build, how to interact with the sandbox. And we're going to have a demo shortly from Michael, who's going to come and talk us through a video for 4 minutes. But what else would you like to share before we bring Michael on board?
No, I think first of all, Alex, thanks for giving us this opportunity, and I really like the forum that you have created for procurement professionals to come and exchange best practices and share the know-how, because at UST, that's one thing that we collectively believe, that we learn from experiences and we learn from the encounters. My view would be just like you mentioned, AI is here to stay. It's about how are we going to take few bets that we are comfortable with to look at how to scale the AI journey within the landscape, be it identifying the suppliers, to benchmarking the suppliers, to even understanding what actually is the change in demand pattern. Because one thing that we are going to see is just not about supplier, but also like how the buyers are going to change their AI demand, their demand vis-a-vis technology buy or any other procurement that they are dealing with. What is the change in behavior from a buying standpoint? So it's very important for procurement to understand the relevance of AI in that journey, and that's where like platforms like Sandbox helps you to experiment and see what actually is a learning curve that you need to plan for, and how you can tide over that in a more structured fashion.
Super. So I'm just going to look for Michael, who I saw was on the call earlier. There he is. and I'm going to invite Michael in as a speaker, and he's going to join us. So, Praveen, you live in London, but UST is kind of based an American firm, but you have offices all over the world supporting your kind of major 180 clients. Have you lived and worked in a number of continents for UST, or always in London?
And I've worked in US also, and like given the current responsibility, which is global in nature, travel is an integral part of it, Alex. So I keep on shuttling between multiple of these centers.
Yeah, excellent. Michael, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you can share your screen, and then you're going to take us through a short 4-minute video and explain some of the things that our members are seeing.
Thanks, Alex. At UST, we're exploring a platform-centric approach to leverage AI more effectively across supply chain-related use cases, helping teams work smarter, collaborate faster, and make procurement processes more efficient. The GenAI Sandbox empowers supply chain professionals to experiment and see how AI can enhance their daily decision-making. We start on the Alchemie homepage. Under Procurement Exchange, you'll find the UST space. Here, you can access our feed to keep up with the latest updates from UST and upcoming events in the AI space, or use the chat feature to talk to a UST associate anytime. The Learning Hub is where you'll find training materials on our GenAI Sandbox and how it can enrich supply chain and procurement. Each lesson is packed with content, from using cards to creating your own agents for any use case you want to explore. Once you're ready to get hands-on, you can reach out using the Contact UST tab. From there, we'll be in touch to set up a trial version of the Sandbox for you to explore. Now, let's step into the Sandbox itself. Inside the Sandbox, you will see a collection of pre-built cards, each representing a repeatable use case. Cards are an abstraction of a business scenario, built for one specific job and nothing else, so they deliver accurate responses every time. One of the first ways we saw GenAI benefit in procurement was by codifying the tribal know-how of tenured category managers and sourcing experts. Cards allow us to capture that experience and turn it into structured, repeatable interactions with the AI model, bringing those insights to the entire organization. For example, let's open the Identify Supply Risk and Mitigation card. This card analyzes supplier data and industry trends to uncover risks and generate mitigation strategies. Here, we upload a supplier dataset and ask, identify potential supply risks and recommend mitigation strategies for high-risk suppliers. Within seconds, the model produces a structured response, ranking suppliers by financial health, delivery performance, ESG scores, and political exposure. And this is just one of many cards that help procurement teams apply AI to real scenarios. A common question with generative AI is about trust and control. How do we trace where answers come from and refine them for business use? We've addressed that through 3 key capabilities. First, responsibility and traceability. Citations and evaluation make every response transparent, showing its source and measuring how faithful and relevant it is. Second is customization and collaboration. With the Canvas tool, users can edit and reframe outputs in their own style, turning AI into a true co-pilot in procurement analysis. Third, auditability and history. The chat history feature logs every interaction, offering traceability and audit trails, which is important for governance and review. For teams ready to take the next step, the Create My Card feature makes it easy for business users, not developers, to build their own cards. Simply enter a name and description, choose your preferred AI model, and assign a persona, for example, a procurement analyst or supply manager. Then, in the instructions field, you can describe exactly what the card should do in plain business language. No coding is required. And this is where the real value lies, taking the collective experience, the tribal know-how within your procurement team, and codifying it into reusable AI cards that anyone in the organization can access. It's about capturing expertise once and scaling it everywhere. But the sandbox doesn't stop at cards. The next evolution is agents, where cards manifest as digital labor. Agents take the logic and expertise captured in cards and apply it to automated workflows. For example, the negotiation agent acts as a virtual buyer, reviewing and negotiating supply terms based on your criteria. Just like cards, agents are built using natural language only and can run multi-step processes through assigned subtasks. They illustrate how AI moves from insight generation to scalable execution, becoming a digital extension of your team. And that's an overview of the UST GenAI Sandbox. From pre-built cards that codify procurement expertise to agents that deliver digital labor at scale, the platform offers a safe, practical way to experiment with AI in real business contexts. Whether it's improving supply visibility or accelerating sourcing cycles, the Sandbox is here to help you explore the future of AI in your business today. Back to you, Alex.
Super. Thank you, Michael. It was really good. Thank you. One of the things that I'm really excited about, I've had, not shy in saying it, I've had 40 years in procurement, and I've always had these administrative tasks that took a long time. And as you go up the tree, they still take a long time. You end up people doing it for you. And I've always struggled with that because I'm a bit of a control freak, and I've always had difficulty handing things over. So I've always had been overburdened when it comes to tasks. What I really liked about what you just explained about the development of a card is the fact that you can. When normally we'd go to an IT professional and they'd say, right, write me a spec. And then you'd have to write a spec, and they send it back to you. No, I need this, I need this, I need this. The way this works is you just write down what it is you want, what it is you need. Where normally you'd ask a consultant or ask an expert within your team, you just speak into it and say, I would like it to help me do this in this order with this methodology on this basis, and it will just do it. And then it immediately repeats something that is then repeatable. If you like the output, if you like the answer, it then becomes repeatable. You say, redo A 7 times. And it's intuitive, and it's quick, and it's fast. And I think everyone that gets to use this, gets to see this, is going to learn a lot about AI. And they're going to learn a lot about what is in the art of the possible. And they're also going to learn that you don't necessarily need to pay fortunes and fortunes for companies to come in and build you a solution. What you need is a framework and a brain. And you put those two together, and it's, when you get to become a pretty good writer of formulas for Excel. You can do a lot with Excel. You don't need someone from IT to do this for you. This is so much easier than that. I mean, I've used AI recently to say, look, I need to do this on Excel. Write me a formula so that it can do this. And it's written the formula. And what you're doing behind the scenes here is you're writing that formula. You're writing that methodology that becomes repeatable. And Michael, Praveen, I think it's fantastic, and it's super exciting. And anyone that isn't excited by this is in the wrong job. They really are. And that's how I see it.
And, thank you, Alex. That's the whole intent with which we went about building this proposition. Again, going back to, I think you pretty much reiterated that point that for driving AI adoption in your landscape, it should not mean that you need tons of people, AI experts. It should be about how do you create an environment or a culture where people can shed away the fear of failure, be open to trying out emerging technologies, and look at how they can codify the enterprise know-how that they have gained over the decades to look at what could good look like. That's a whole USP with which we build the platform, and we're looking forward to frameworks like Alchemie to drive the adoption and create more awareness in terms of what could be a simplistic approach to plug and play AI in your enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, both of you, thank you so much. We're going to be opening up the space after this, and then we'll be advertising it across the membership. For anyone that's watching this in repeat, it's already open, so go look. And we're going to be running a few other shows as well, where we're going to bring in some super users to have a discussion. So we're going to bring in some designers, some technical people from UST, some of our super users and adopters, and we're going to have a virtual sandbox ourselves and talk about, oh, what about this? Could it do that? And maybe we're going to learn from each other. That's my hope and desire from this, that we call it the Alchemie Network CI, not AI, community intelligence. And we believe that we're going to have some CI from this from all over the world. We have members in 170 countries. And the nice thing about this is not border specific. This is available to anybody. Australia, Rio de Janeiro, Botswana, anywhere you are. And I can see from our members who are on here that they are from all over the globe. So thank you so much.